Hi everybody, Doug Davis with Cowtown, and here today we're going to do something pretty interesting. We are going to compare a Can-Am XT800 Defender against a new 2016 John Deere 825i Gator. They are big competition for each other, and our intention here is certainly not to beat up John Deere. They are a very good product. We're just going to show you the difference between the two and kind of let you decide. Okay everybody, here we are in the John Deere Gator here. Now this is going to be some of the biggest differences that there is between the Can-Am Defender and the Gator is inside the cockpit area. To tell you the truth, for two machines that are in the same class, the differences are absolutely astonishing. First thing we'll notice on the Gator is it has two seat belts. Now it is a bench seat machine, and a lot of people call it a three-seater, but it is a two-seater. It has two seat belts. The next thing on the John Deere that we're going to show is the shifting mechanisms. Your shifting mechanism, your park brake, your rear differential lock are all right here in the center, so that makes a third passenger seating very uncomfortable to say the least. Okay, now another huge difference in the machine, the two machines I should say, this is the gauge on the John Deere Gator, mounted in the center of the dash, digital gauge. Not too bad to read, but you can see the steering wheel here, no tilt steering. We have a very small glove box with no protection whatsoever, so whatever you put in there, it just kind of is. And there again, this is something I'm going to beat the John Deere up on a little bit. The amount of floor room here is very low. You can also see where the seat is mounted versus here. That's as far back as you can get your foot in the machine, and far forward you can easily see how the fender humps out. Small area for the pedals. Okay, now on the seat of the machine, the machine is a bench seat. It is non-adjustable, so it is a one-size-fits-all from John Deere. Also, this is a mid-raised back, nothing very tall. Now, people that have traded in the John Deere, and usually the first time they slide in a Defender, this is a comment they make, is this bar right here. When you get in it, you're either getting up over it or sliding across the top of that bar. Now also, it certainly limits your seating. I mean, right now I'm sitting right up against the bar. It's got one on each side. So it's just something you got to work around to get in and out of the machine. It's not real handy, I'll tell you. Okay everybody, here we are inside the Can-Am Defender. Now, first thing we will see, just like it started out with the John Deere, we are a three-passenger, as you can see. We do have three seat belts, we have three separate seats. Now, another thing, because we are three-passenger, we do not have our controls down here in the middle. So when the center passenger is sitting here, or you're mounting a gun rack or something in here, it is not an issue here. You do not have the park and brake, the differential lock, and the shifting mechanism down here. On the Defender, they are up on the dash. Now, like I say, it is a dash mount, obviously. So controllers up here out of the way. It's long, easy to grab, easy to use. Our differential lock also is not mounted down here. It is mounted here on the dash. It's just a toggle, and we're there, rocker switch. Now also, where we showed the center mounted gauge in the John Deere, this is what Can-Am has on their XT model, which is comparable to that 825i. Now you can see we have manual gauges here, so it's called a dual analog. We got manual gauges here, digital gauge here, does all the same functions and more that the John Deere does. Okay, now dash on the Defender is simply amazing. We have a lot of storage here. We've got a sealed storage box here. That's for our concealed carry. We have a lot of shelving down here underneath, which is very nice. We've got a nice pad here to store stuff on. We've got a removable storage box here. And when you remove it, there's also a nice tray up there to stow stuff. One thing Can-Am did an amazing job on was the storage on this machine. Now also, unlike the John Deere, this is not a one-size-fits-all machine. We do have a tilt wheel in the Defender. It is very easy to use. It works every time. We also have an adjustable driver's seat in the XT model. So we can adjust for smaller drivers, taller drivers. And unlike the John Deere where I showed you could not put your foot back, this one we have a tremendous amount of foot room in here. I mean, the difference in through here is amazing. This has more than twice the amount of room in the floorboard that the John Deere had. Our fenders are not coming all the way out to here. The pedals are farther apart. As you can see, just a lot more room. Now another thing in that particular John Deere, it had 2 cup holders mounted down here. On this Can-Am Defender, we got a cup holders on the dash, 2 of them, 1 on each side, and we have cup holders and a fold-down console here. This is also a very nice feature. So you got an armrest there, cup holders, close it, your 3rd seat. Now while we're on the seats, this is a pretty amazing deal. Our seats are considerably higher in the back than the John Deere, and we have headrest back here, which are very nice as well. Now on the storage in the cab area, this is one of my favorite features of This is one of my favorite features of the Can-Am Defender, is the seats will fold up. Now here on the sales lot, we do have a removable toolbox in here. But one of my sales tactics, or something I use in sales on the lot, to use this, I mean, picture yourself with a load of wood in the machine and you got your chainsaw and your gas, stuff you don't want bounced around or spilled, you can put it up here right in the front with you. Okay, now here in our John Deere Gator, to operate the machine, where shifter is here, we got a reverse, neutral, low, and high. Now one thing the John Deere does have, and we have traded for it more than a few John Deeres, they do have a park brake. They do not have a park gear. Now I'm not saying this is a problem with John Deeres. It may be a problem with people sometimes, but we've traded for more than one that the park brake was out of it. And heck, you end up, you know, we park them up on the front line, you got to throw a rock or a block under the tire to keep them from rolling off. But just one more part here. Another thing they have is a manual locking rear differential. Reach down, turn it off and on. It is pretty simple. Now, the only other 2 switches on the John Deere Gator is you have a 2-wheel drive and a 4-wheel drive, and you got your headlights off and on. Actually, while we were filming that park brake issue, I don't know if you caught that on camera, I took the park brake off and it rolled backwards and hit the Hummer while we were sitting here. Alright, here we are in the Can-Am Defender, and we're going to show you the functions on the machine, just like we did the John Deere Gator. Now, like I said, we do have the tilt wheel. So when you get in the machine, you automatically start sizing it up for you, which is great. Now, we have the shifter is very easy. We do have a reverse, neutral, high, low, just like John Deere, but we do have a park brake. It is something that does not fail. There is no cable to brake on the park brake. Now, our switches we do have more switches in the dash. Now, John Deere's rear differential lock was manual and down here low. Ours is simply right here on the dash from an upright set. It is much easier to get to. I do not have to reach down to grab it. Like the Deere, we do have a 4-wheel drive and 2-wheel drive switch. Very easy to use. Now this is something that the John Deere does not have. This switch gives you 3 different driving modes in the machine. It has an econo driving mode, which is more like driving on a governor, so to speak. We do have a normal driving mode, and we do have a work mode. Now the work mode does give it a little more power, but one huge function of that switch is if you're driving across an old hayfield that's been rutted up for years and the machine starts to bounce, your foot can bounce on the throttle and the machine can surge from that because your foot's moving on the throttle. In the work mode, it will take some of the sensitivity out of the throttle pedal so that as we're bouncing around in the machine, the engine will stay at one smooth, constant flow there. So it's a very, very nice feature. It's added over the John Deere Gator, and as far as I know, any of their competition to date. Okay, now the differences on the machine and the engine and drivetrain. Now both machines come with a 50 horsepower engine. That's in an HD8 XT versus the 825. The biggest difference is truly speed. The John Deere tops out at 44 miles an hour. The Can-Am Defender tops out at 65 miles an hour. So there's a major difference in speed on the 2 machines. Okay, now one big difference we noticed, just me and Brian, who's filming this, walking around the two machines, one thing that we noticed that stood out very big was the John Deere didn't have any grease fittings on it. And I spent a lot of years with John Deere, and I'll tell you, they know better than to do that. The Can-Am is loaded with grease fittings. We have grease fittings on our A-arms, upper and lower. And we also have grease fittings back here in our sway bars and our upper and lower A-arms. Now folks, make no mistake, I've been selling equipment all my life. Everything from heavy truck, heavy equipment, defenders, boats, what have you. Grease is the life of a machine. So if you've got one with grease fittings, you should be greasing it, because that is the life of them. They'll last a lot longer if you shoot them with grease. Like I say, I don't care much for the sealed units on the John Deere, or anybody's sealed units. Now one other thing me and Brian picked up just while we were walking around the machines is, on the Can-Am, I can dump the bed from either side. You can see the bed mechanism right there. Now on the John Deere bed, you can only dump that from the passenger side, or the driver's side, I'm sorry. Now I'll tell you, the load assist on the bed, as far as what will lift, seems to be twice as much on the Defender as it is on the John Deere. So it's easier to lift a heavy load in the Defender than it is the John Deere. Okay, now a small note here. On the John Deere, you can see the floorboard under the seat here where the air cleaner is. Now that is wide open, and even when I shut the door, there's just a big gaping hole there. Now they've got a mud flap here, guys, but take my word for it, I've been off-roading for years, as well as a lot of you have. You're gonna eat some debris up here at one point or another, no doubt about it. I believe the driver's side of the machine to be the same way. Okay. Now, on the driver's side here, it's the same way. It's pretty well wide open. They have their gas tank sitting here. Now, really, for my taste, that gas lid is a little bit low. It's kind of in a debris path if a mud flap gets tore off, of slinging rocks and mud and everything on there. And I wouldn't want to, but I'd say it's possible to get that close to underwater on some of our creek crossings around here. So that's a pretty low mount gas tank lid. Okay, now here we are on the Can-Am looking at the same spots. You can see in our floor, everything is closed in on this machine. Now also, something of note, this is where we pick up the air for the CVT system on the machine. Now notice it is very high on this machine. Now the John Deere, I showed you the air cleaner way down here. The Can-Am, the air cleaner, and the vent for the CV set much higher off the machine. That's going to give us a couple advantages. For one is water, but the second is dust. The lower it is down there, the more dust it's going to eat or suck in. So I think Can-Am put more of their off-road experience into this by mounting the air cleaner and the CV vent higher on the machine. Much higher on the machine. Okay, now this is our gas tank on our Can-Am right here. You can notice we're all nice and sealed up. Our gas lid is higher. It's not sitting flat. It's got a little angle on it, so anything that can get in it should run off. Okay guys, this concludes our video of our Can-Am HD8 XT Defender versus our 825i John Deere. We do have this newer John Deere here. If you would like to come by and do a side-by-side comparison yourself, you are certainly welcome to. You can get off one machine, get on the other. It'll really allow you to do all your research in one place. But anyway, hope you enjoy the video, and I hope it helps you on your in your sales process.